So the US is trying to put an end to stock trading for all members of Congress.
Anybody want to be poor? I don't.
The days of lawmakers cashing in on Wall Street could be numbered as the Senate works on a new bill to ban trading for Congress.
Members of Congress get briefings. They get information presented to them. It's not technically insider information under our current laws, but let's be honest, it's information that members of the general public don't have access to.
Imagine the people we elect to run our government making millions of dollars off the markets they're supposed to regulate. This is exactly the world we live in, and it's been a problem in Washington for decades.
President Trump has previously said he would sign legislation banning stock trading for lawmakers, but with the executive branch now included, the White House says it presents constitutional concerns.
Resignation.
He must resign from the Senate and face prosecution.
Ultimately, this all comes down to greed.
Our members of Congress have access to some of the most sensitive economic information before anyone else does. Think stimulus packages, tariff decisions, major trade deals with other countries, and some of these politicians have used this knowledge to trade stocks with an unfair advantage. Now, the result of that is a huge conflict of interest because lawmakers can profit personally from these policies.
And the point is, we need to make it illegal for people to do this kind of thing. 86% of Americans look at stock trading by members of the Congress and they say, we ought to ban that. They can't believe it's not been banned already. Nobody should be up in Congress making a quick buck day trading when they should be doing the people's business.
Now, you might have heard about something called the Stock Act, which passed way back in 2012. That was a law that was meant to stop this exact thing from happening by banning members of Congress and their families from insider trading and requiring them to disclose their trades within a certain time period. And even though that law had good intentions, enforcement has been really bad. There's loopholes everywhere, and some high-profile scandals have kept this issue in the news. And one of them is, of course, Nancy Pelosi's husband's controversial stock buys during the pandemic, all the way to senators selling off shares right before the market crashed in early 2020. So it's become very obvious that the Stock Act didn't do much for insider trading in Congress like we wanted to. Now in 2025 though, there's a new push to finally put an end to stock trading by members of Congress and their families. It's called the Honest Act. It's an evolution of the Pelosi Act.
I wanted to give you a chance just to respond. He accused you of insider trading. What's your response to that?
And you know what's bad? When you've made so much money that they try to ban stock trading and then naming it after you.
Change the name, by the way. It's not the Pelosi Act, it's the Honest Act.
And this bill doesn't just call for transparency though. It also outright bans politicians from owning and trading individual stocks, and instead they'd be required to invest through blind trusts or diversified funds, which is similar to what the executive branch already does. So in this video, I want to explain how we got here, what this new bill really says, and what it means for the future of the political power and our trust in that system. So if you're interested in investing, or you're just curious about how politicians can actually influence the stock market, I want to explain what's going on, so let's get into it. Hi, my name is Andrei Jikh. Hope you're doing well. Come for the finance and stay for the insider trading. So here's the interesting thing. Right now, the law on stock trading does not consider the information that Congress gets as insider trading. But the truth is, our politicians get access to information way before anyone else does. For example, in the early days of the COVID-19 pandemic, while most people were just scrambling to figure out what was about to happen to the world, some senators were super busy selling millions of dollars worth of stocks right before the market crashed. Senator Richard Burr, for example, was one of the most famous cases. He got confidential briefings about just how bad the virus would be, and then he made trades that saved him, but possibly cost regular investors a ton of money. Then there's arguably the most famous example, which is Nancy Pelosi, the Speaker of the House. Now, some estimates say that Nancy Pelosi has made something like 700% returns in the last 10 years. And here's how impossibly good that is. Let's take a look at Warren Buffett, who's considered to be the greatest investor of all time. And by comparison, he made about 200% over the last decade. So more than 3 times less. And because of her allegedly incredible investing skills, her net worth is estimated to be in the hundreds of millions of dollars, which is way beyond what her congressional salary could ever explain.
She's worth an estimated $400 million now.
How? What's the salary? 70,000 a year?
170 grand a year, something like that. 200 grand a year, maybe.
Because while she earns around 220,000 a year, her family's investments, specifically through her husband, include millions and millions of dollars of companies like Apple, Tesla, NVDA. And during the pandemic, while average Americans were just losing jobs and their savings, her husband was making multi-million-dollar stock buys, which happened to be timed perfectly with market dips and recoveries. The point is this: it would take more than a couple lifetimes worth of saving 100% of your income to get anywhere near that kind of a net worth. And because of all of this, it's estimated that something like 86% of Americans agree that members of Congress should not be able to buy and sell individual stocks while they're members of Congress. And that's obviously why there's this new push to ban members of Congress from trading stocks. Now, a quick pause though. If you're like me, you're always asking, how do I find the best stocks? What should I buy and sell right now? And how do I get the skill to become as good as one of our Congress people? Now, we all know investing.com, who's sponsoring this video, and I want to quickly talk about their flagship product, Investing Pro. First up, one of my favorite features is Warrant AI. Think of this as ChatGPT for investors, powered by investing.com's data. All you have to do is just link your portfolio, ask any market question that you like where should I invest $10,000 today, or what should I expect from the next Fed decision, and you can get an instant spot-on answer. Now, the second feature that's really cool is the Pro Picks AI, where you can get research on strategies that are outsmarting the market. So for example, if I want to find the best value stocks, I can do that by clicking value, and it'll give me the top value stocks. It will show you a portfolio with a list of stocks that have outperformed the market. You can also take a look at the Ideas tab and copy the same strategies used by legendary investors. And using this tool has saved me a lot of time trying to figure out which stocks I might be interested in buying. Now, the summer sale ends on August 28th. You can click my link in the description to get 50% off plus 15% on any Investing Pro plan. No credit card is needed to try this. Grab this deal while it lasts. Thank you, investing.com, for sponsoring this segment of the video, and now let's get back to it. But now let's get into the bill itself, which is officially called the Honest Act, but sometimes you'll hear it referred to as the Pelosi Act because that's what it originally was. Now, this legislation just passed what's called the Senate committee by a very small margin of 8-7 vote. So while this committee approval is a super important step in the right direction, it's just the first stage of the Senate's process, because the bill still needs to clear a full Senate vote and then the House before becoming law. So it's very far from guaranteed to pass. But here's what the Honest Act does. It prevents members of Congress, the president, the vice president, and their spouses from owning or trading individual stocks, securities, futures, and other financial products during their terms. The ban also extends to the president, the vice president, but this part of the law does not apply right away. Instead, it's going to take effect starting on the next term, which for the president means beginning in 2029. Now, for members of Congress and their spouses, the law gives them a 180-day window after enactment or after the start of their term to what's called divest, meaning to sell out of their investments. Now, the bill does not prevent investments in what are called broadly held diversified mutual funds, ETFs, and US Treasury bonds. AKA, it doesn't prevent them from investing in what most Americans invest in for their retirement. Now, if the politicians were to break the Honest Act, though, the penalty would be things like paying fines and, in some cases, potential criminal penalties. The GAO, or the Government Accountability Office, will audit compliance every 2 years, and members will have to certify every year that they are following this law. But after clearing the Senate committee, the bill now waits for the full Senate vote. Whether it's going to pass, no one knows, especially considering the conflicts of interest. Critics are arguing that this is kind of like putting the wolves in charge of the sheep, because lawmakers are voting on restricting their own ability to make money. So the question is, which political parties actually support doing this? And as usual, the Democrats seem to be united in their support of the Honest Act, but among Republicans, it's less clear.
I don't know how many people in the audience, how many of you don't want to make money? Anybody want to be poor? I don't.
And I don't mind anybody being rich. What I mind is people getting rich while they're here trading stock, which I think we can all agree on.
Senator Josh Hawley is the only Republican senator to back the bill in the Senate committee. Now, personally, my opinion is that this whole thing is more about the optics, how it looks, than about actual change. Just a way for lawmakers to look like they care about insider trading, but I doubt they'll be agreeing to any real restrictions on themselves because why would they? It's a classic example of politics blending with performance, where the show can sometimes overshadow the point of what it's actually trying to do. Now, President Trump generally supports this ban of congressional stock trading, and he denies targeting Nancy Pelosi specifically, who surprisingly supports this bill. But the critics are skeptical if she's really a virtuous, honest person, or that maybe she's doing this because she already made her money. So I think it's really hard to say how much of this is genuine disagreement versus just political theater designed to control or distract from a bigger picture of what's happening in the world. I'd love to hear what you think in the comments down below, but I don't think they're going to end up banning congressional trading. As always, I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day. Smash the like button, subscribe if you haven't already. I'd love to see you back here next week. I'll see you soon. Bye-bye.